Welcome into Austin Now, live on the Fox Local app. We are coming at you from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. It looks like the shutdown saga is almost over. It looks like we are just about 15 minutes away from this thing being put to bed. I know we have been tracking this for weeks now, this shutdown. This is day 43. Of course, we were talking to you guys the night before the government was about to shut down. We knew it was looming. We knew it was coming. It shuts down. We thought maybe there would be an end in sight, but of course this has broken the previous record, which was 35 days during the first Trump administration, 2018 going into 2019, over funding for the border wall. This much longer than that by about more than a week, almost 10 days longer than this. So day 43, on Monday, the Senate passed the funding bill as we expected they would if they could get some Democrats to come over to their side. They did. They got 8. And so those 8 Democrats going over, breaking ranks to get this thing to the next phase. So it passes 60-40 in the Senate. It goes to the next phase. That phase being, of course, the House. They voted on that tonight. It passed just about an hour ago. We knew that vote was going to come in around 7:15 our time. It came in, of course, that passing 222 to 209, and of course the final phase of this to get the government back up and running is it heads to President Trump's desk. So from reports, the early reports showing that would be possibly signed in the Oval Office at 9:45 DC time, of course 8:45 our time. That's about 14-15 minutes from now. So we'll keep you updated if I see anything in terms of Trump signing that. Been following the Fox News, of course, Twitter account, X account, whatever you want to call it, in terms of seeing a lot of these things come in live. And so certainly a historic government shutdown to all of the federal workers out there that have been furloughed, to anybody working in air traffic control, to anybody affected by this with SNAP benefits. I think all of us can agree that we hope things can get back to normal as soon as possible for so many of those people out there. More than 650,000 federal workers furloughed during this time. Air traffic controllers, more than 10,000 of them not being paid during this time. Some of those people being questioned by the Transportation Secretary and President Trump over their dedication, over their patriotism, over whether or not they cared enough about the country. We hope those people get back to work as soon as possible. And of course, if I was going to work and I wasn't getting paid, I would hope that I would get retroactively paid as soon as possible. So once Trump signs this in about 15 minutes from now, it looks like everything will move smoothly in terms of getting this government back open. I want to read to you something. Fox News just posted this on their Twitter account. This, of course, from Speaker Mike Johnson. He says, Democrats, quote, got nothing for their selfish political stunt here, which he's been bashing them on this for 43 days now. So as President Trump calling this a Schumer shutdown, a Democratic shutdown, blaming them for all of this, and really reiterating the fact that they have voted 14 to 15 times to reopen the government, and then they come back and say the Democrats are voting to not open the government. Of course, the Democrats' gripe being with the Obamacare subsidies involving the Affordable Care Act. So essentially what's happening is they want an extension of these Affordable Care Act tax credits, Obamacare. That's not a part of this. What Chuck Schumer had argued this entire time, what so many Democrats had argued this entire time, was that's what they wanted to negotiate. That's what they wanted an update on. Of course, that's not part of this bill, so many people felt like, why did you drag us all through the mud for so long if you didn't get what you wanted? So I think they figured they could hold on and maybe they could get some sort of agreement, some sort of a negotiation. Nobody able to budge on that. And so what we have now is there's no guarantee that these Obamacare tax credit subsidies will be extended. So what Hakeem Jeffries has done, of course, on the Democratic side, is tried to pull something off here at the last second. So I want to pull up basically what they're trying to do. So House Democrats, of course, trying to get this thing to stop. They knew they were going to lose this vote unless by some miracle something happened. But they knew they were probably going to lose this vote tonight, which they did. So House Democrats filed a discharge petition. Maybe you haven't heard of that before. So essentially what it's trying to do is force a vote on legislation which would extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies for another 3 years. So somewhat of a longer-term agreement than this expiring, of course, at the end of its tenure. Mind you, by funding all of this, and I know I talked about President Trump signing this, this will make sure that the government is funded only until January 30th. So there is still more to be fought over and decided and negotiated. So we're close to getting to the finish line of just making sure that January 30th is possible. Okay, so back to Hakeem Jeffries and the House Democrats. So they've extended what is a discharge petition to force a vote on legislation. So basically what they're hoping to do is persuade at least 4 Republicans to sign this petition. So the number needed to reach is 218 signatures, and as it stands, the GOP controls the House 219 to 214, which, if you remember back to the numbers that we just talked about in winning by 222, there were some Democrats that voted for this funding bill. Adam Gray, one person in California that did. So essentially, if the petition gets 218 signatures, it would allow them to bypass Speaker Mike Johnson and bring the measure to the floor despite opposition from conservative leadership. So this is a last-second push. So basically, as I mentioned, they're fighting over this. So it looks like the Republicans really, and this is something the Trump administration had promised they would do in the first administration, is repeal Obamacare, get rid of it, and put out something different. So we'll see if this petition, if this happens with 218 signatures, but as I mentioned, they would have to convince 4 Republicans to sign this petition with them. So, of course, the first question is, for many of these congressmen, senators, is, okay, if not Obamacare, if you're going to repeal that, if you're going to get rid of that, what is the game plan moving forward? So Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, who's been a staunch Republican, staunch Trump supporter, MAGA supporter, really has come out and said, okay, what is our plan then? And she criticized Speaker Johnson, saying, hey, I've asked him if there's a plan. I'm not getting any type of communication. Speaker Mike Johnson essentially responding to that, saying, you know, I don't want to put our plans out there in the public, making it sound like it's some type of a war strategy, war game plans that he doesn't want to put out there. So he was telling Marjorie Taylor Greene, hey, anytime you want to come to my office, my doors are open and we can discuss these things. But a lot of people asking, okay, if not this, then what is the resolution? Speaker Mike Johnson said he's been on committees before. There's loads of ideas, he says. There's volumes of ideas that they can make this thing work. So one thing I wanted to point out, and we talked about this a little bit earlier in our 5 o'clock show, is some senators like Bill Cassidy out of Louisiana, the state where Mike Johnson, of course, represents as well, rather than the tax credits being involved with this Obamacare. So what he was essentially is proposing is you transform this subsidy into a flexible spending account. So what does that mean? It basically would put the money in the hands of the consumers so they could find the coverage they need. So rather than putting it in the hands of the insurers, it puts it in the hands of the American people. So you're basically routing that money away from insurers and putting the cash directly into your hands, and maybe you have more choice over your coverage. So we'll see if something like that works. Trump, of course, has joked, saying, oh, you could call it Trump care. So we don't know what their game plan is, but they'll have, you know, it looks like until January 30th to try and figure out something, to nail out something. Otherwise, we could be in the same scenario we are in right now. So got about a minute left. As I mentioned, Trump signing this bill probably in about 5 minutes from now, from what we were told, inside the Oval Office. If you're just joining us, the funding bill has passed. The government is on its way to reopening after a record-breaking 43 days. Passed in the Senate on Monday, 60-40. Passed in the House tonight, about an hour ago, 222 to 209. So there's something else in this as well. There's a provision that was added by Senate Majority Leader, excuse me, John Thune, which I think is very interesting. And so we'll get into that when we come back. Coming up later in the show, we're going to talk about Trump's MRI, which Caroline Levitt was asked about today. We're going to talk about his stance on the H-1B1. Fox News' Laura Ingraham asking him about that. And we're also going to give you some updates regarding that tragic story with the Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle, Nealand. Just an awful story out of Dallas there. So we'll give you the latest, and basically what's happening with his girlfriend, and as we learned, a baby on the way. So just a tragic story. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Austin Now on this Wednesday. As we mentioned, if you missed it in the first segment of the show, the government shutdown very close to ending and the government going back to opening its doors. So 43 days of this. It's been a headache for so many Americans out there. Millions affected by SNAP benefits, hundreds of thousands of federal workers furloughed, impacted, people wondering what's next for me, what's going on. So it looks as though this is headed to President Trump's desk. It has passed in the Senate. It has passed in the House, as we expected tonight, and heading to President Trump's desk. I'll keep you updated even if I got video of it, I can't show you anyway, but at least I could give you what's happening in the Oval Office. So we'll keep an eye on that. So certainly a historic that we've seen. 43 days. There's never been a government shutdown this long in the history of the United States government. So speaking of Trump, well, before we get to Trump, I want to talk about a provision that was put into this funding bill, which has upset some other Congress people. A congressman out of Florida saying tonight, even though he's a Republican, he was saying, I don't know if I can vote on this tonight because of this provision. So I will try and pull this up. So essentially what we're looking at here is something that was put in that could benefit Republican senators. So I lost the page, but I'll pull it up. Okay, here we go. So it's basically a push that would allow, according to Speaker Mike Johnson, that would allow these senators to sue the government for potentially millions of dollars if their data is obtained without their notification. So Johnson has come out saying he was shocked and angry when he learned about the provision, which would uniquely benefit 8 Republican senators, as I just mentioned. So their phone records, but the contents of their calls or messages were found to have been accessed as part of the investigation that led to former special counsel Jack Smith's probe of the January 6th attack back in 2021 at the U.S. Capitol. So essentially what you're looking at here is these Republican senators could sue, depending on each violation, for $500,000. So some other Congress people coming out, as I mentioned, the gentleman from Florida, I can't remember his name right now, but him saying, look, why would I vote for a senator to get $500,000, over suing the government over this investigation? So it's really interesting here, a provision that was put in by Senate Majority Leader John Thune. Some people wondering, hey, is he going to tank this thing at the last second by putting in this provision and benefiting the 8 Republican senators? But as we've seen over the last, it seems like 10 years regarding politics, I mean, everyone's getting sued. There's just been a ton of litigation. Here it is. Greg Steube, that's his name, the Republican out of Florida. So he was one of 2 Republicans who voted against the bill tonight. So he vented his frustrations with the process that led to the provision being included, saying, quote, that does nothing to change the fact that certain senators will get paid an additional $500,000 of taxpayer money. The Senate will never take up your standalone bill. He wrote this on Twitter, and this was, of course, in response to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. This is precisely why you shouldn't let the Senate jam the House. So a really interesting provision. It has to do with Special Counsel Jack Smith, the investigation, their phone records, of course, being grabbed without their notification, and they could sue for $500,000. We'll see if anything pans out from that. It didn't stop this from passing, but some people worried that maybe John Thune, is he taking this thing at the last second? Anyway, I want to move on to President Trump, who should be signing this bill any moment. He was asked today, not him specifically, but Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, was asked about an MRI that was taken at Walter Reed regarding President Trump. So before all this happened, she came out and said, the vote's going to happen tonight. This has been a Democratic shutdown. Blame them. They're the ones to blame. So really just slamming the Democrats. She was asked about an MRI he underwent last month in October. So she responds to reporters in the White House saying, quote, as stated in the memo provided on October 10th, President Trump received advanced imaging at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of his routine physical examination. She went on to say the full results were viewed by attending radiologists and consultants, and all agree that President Trump remains in exceptional physical health, which I know all of you will see with your own eyes this evening when he opens up his dinner to the press and perhaps you will see him when he signs the bill to reopen the federal government, so stay tuned on plans for that. They've been asked about this before. Caroline Leavitt's been asked about this before. According to the reports, Trump received a medical evaluation for a, quote, semi-annual physical at Walter Reed. Trump's physician, Sean Barbabella, said that the president continues to, quote, demonstrate excellent overall health. He also said the president underwent advanced imaging, laboratory testing, and preventative health assessments during the visits. So, of course, the president comes out, as he's always said, and he tells reporters it was perfect. You know, he's in amazing physical health. He says, quote, nobody has ever given you reports like I gave you, and even if I didn't think it was going to be good either, I would let you know negatively. I wouldn't run, I'd do something, but the doctors said some of the best reports for the age, some of the best reports they've ever seen, according to Trump. Some of the best reports they've ever seen. So anyway, that's an update on Trump's MRI. Caroline Leavitt saying it's just part of his normal physical, undergoing advanced imaging, but seems pretty serious. But the White House not saying it's anything to be concerned about. Something else regarding President Trump, a really interesting interview he did with Fox News' Laura Ingraham, of course, from the Ingraham angle, and she went into the Oval Office and pressed him on a lot of these issues that have been brought up during the government shutdown. I mean, she pressed him. So I want to go over some things she said regarding the H-1B1 visas. Okay, so H-1B visas. Okay, so during the interview, this was last night that it aired, she basically said, hey, like, is this something that's, you know, going to be an important piece for you? Like, you know, and he said, well, we have to bring in talent. And she responds with, and I know I brought this up a little bit yesterday, but we didn't really get into it because we ran out of time. She said, we have plenty of talented people here. Trump responds, no, you don't. You don't have certain talents, and you have to have people learn. So you got a lot of backlash for this, of course. And he said, quote, you can't take people off in unemployment like an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory. You can't just say a country is coming in, going to invest $10 billion to build a plant, and going to take people off an unemployment line who haven't worked in 5 years. And they're going to start making their missiles. It doesn't work that well. So a lot of people, of course, you know, agreeing with Laura Ingraham on this, saying, hey, you know, she really pressed him on this question. Is it America first? You know, should we be training our people here? Should people be going more into trade school? So really interesting stuff from Laura Ingraham. When we get back, we're going to talk more about the Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle Marshawn Nealon and his unfortunate suicide, and what's the latest on that. Welcome back into Austin Now, live on the Fox Local app. We are coming at you from the Fox 7 Austin newsroom. During the commercial break, just got an update regarding the government shutdown and how it relates to air traffic controllers coming back to work. So I just want to read this really quickly to give everyone out there an update. The headline reads, the FFA says flight cuts will stay at 6% because more air traffic controllers are actually coming to work. Flight reductions at 40 major U.S. airports will remain at 6% instead of rising to 10% by the end of the week because more air traffic controllers are coming back to work. The announcement was made shortly before the U.S. passed a bill, of course, as we mentioned at the top of the show, to end the longest government shutdown in history. So still going to be an impact there as air traffic controllers come back to work, as we've mentioned over the last couple of days, even though things have moved forward and the government shutdown is close to finally ending during this period. It's still going to take some time for everyone to get back to work, and I assume, even if everyone is back, there's probably so much backlog that things will have to get cleared up again. So those flight cuts will stay at 6% at 40 major U.S. airports. Okay, this a very difficult story for a lot of football fans and Dallas Cowboy fans out there, and we've been talking about this over the last couple of days. Just really a devastating story. So if you don't know, Marshawn Nealon, a defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, very young, only 24 years old, ultimately ended his life. And the latest today is his head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, talking about the team creating a memorial fund for his girlfriend who's pregnant with his kid, and hopefully making sure that they are taking care of the rest of their lives. Just an awful story out of Dallas. So I want to read you a timeline of key events and kind of take you through this, because this happened, his death happened only 2 days after he played on Monday Night Football. So November 3rd, just more than a week ago, he recovers a blocked punt, scores his first NFL touchdown on a national televised game. I mean, what a great moment for this 24-year-old. 2 nights later, Wednesday night, this is around 10:30 p.m., Texas DPS troopers attempt to stop the vehicle driven by Nealon for a traffic violation on the Dallas North Tollway near Keller Springs Boulevard. He refuses to stop, according to police. Shortly after, troopers lose sight of the vehicle, and minutes later, the vehicle is located crashed on southbound Dallas Parkway near Warren Parkway. Nealon had left the vehicle on foot. So now, about an hour and 10 minutes later, this is around 11:40 p.m., a welfare check is dispatched by Plano police at Nealon's apartment complex after a call from his girlfriend saying he was armed and saying, quote, he will end it all. So she was saying that. Now we're going into the early morning hours of November 6th. It's now Thursday morning. This started Wednesday night. Frisco police find Nealon dead, apparently from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a portable toilet near the crash scene where the vehicle was located. So in the morning, breaking news, everyone starts to find out that, the Cowboys announced his passing, that he had taken his own life, the death being treated by an apparent suicide. So we knew this information early on, a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So in looking at things, if you look at dispatch audio, it reveals that Nealon had texted his family goodbye before the crash, and his girlfriend reported he had a history of mental illness. The NFL and the Cowboys have issued statements. We've heard from coaches, teammates, an outpouring of support. So just a really horrible story. Now, something we do know now, and adding more context to this that we didn't know the day of, maybe some of you did, but his mother had died unexpectedly in February last year, which obviously, to anybody, a huge, major emotional event for him. The Cowboys also came out with a statement today talking about mental health, and if anybody out there has problems, here's a number to call. So thankfully, in a moment like this, the team, the organization, the Dallas Cowboys stepping up. Brian Schottenheimer talking to media today, holding back tears that a player he was just coaching, that he just saw, had taken his own life. So they're setting up a memorial fund for the girlfriend who's pregnant with his child, and hopefully they are taken care of for the rest of their lives, according to Brian Schottenheimer. So just a really tragic story. There's so many Dallas Cowboys fans all around, not even just the country, but all around the world, of course, who saw him score that touchdown on Monday night, only 2 days later to hear that he had taken his own life. Just a really horrible story. I also want to bring up another story as well, something you want to look out for in the 9 o'clock. Of course, want to tease ahead to the 9 o'clock coming up. You can either watch it here on the Fox Local app or, of course, on Fox 7 on your TV. So just to give you guys a brief rundown of this, Katie Pratt on this story. She'll bring you more. I don't want to give it away, but they are investigating a homicide in downtown Austin. It happened near 401 East 5th Street next to a fire station. The shoot/stab hotshot call came in shortly after 8:30 this morning. So Katie will have more on that coming up in our 9 o'clock. Before we go, I want to end somewhat light, or maybe you'll find this scary. I don't know. We've got about a minute and a half here. I saw this earlier. This is crazy, okay? This song is like blowing up on country Billboard, digital numbers, YouTube, Spotify, you name it. I think you can hear it here. I'll play it. See if you can hear it.
Been beat down, but I don't stay low.
I'll skip ahead.
Hey, this road's been rough, but I learned to trade it.
Okay, the artist, according to Spotify, is Breaking Rust. The song is called Walk My Walk. That person singing is not real, and if you go on Spotify, you'll find that the song, there's a cowboy there, but there's no face, because it's nobody. It's artificial intelligence, it's AI. It's not real. That's not a real guy. So some people have been super interested in this, saying, wow, that's so cool. Others are like, well, if this is the case, what does this mean for so many artists and other people out there? Like, if this is topping the charts, now, is it topping the charts because people want to hear something AI that sounds good and just check it out? Maybe. But if this is the future of music, or maybe movies, or maybe even me standing here, that's a little frightening. So, artificial intelligence song, Walk My Walk by Breaking Rust. That's the future. I feel like we've entered the iRobot era here. Maybe we're not there yet. That was 2035 in Chicago with Will Smith. I don't think we're there yet. Thanks for joining us on Austin Now on the Fox Local app. We will be back to talk to you guys next Monday. You can join us on the weekend, of course. We'll see you then.